Hi everyone, and welcome to Live with the 19th. I'm Amanda Zamora, co-founder and publisher of The 19th, an independent, nonprofit newsroom that aims to empower you with the information, resources, and community you need to be equal participants in our democracy. And it's Pride Month. To celebrate, we're getting to know young trans athletes who are following in the footsteps of other trailblazers who've championed civil rights across generations. Today, Mack Beggs and Sarah Rose Huckman are going to discuss their sports journeys and their fight for equality and representation in the face of discrimination with the 19th LGBTQ+ reporter, Kate Sosin. As today's conversation gets going, we hope you'll share it on social media using the hashtag the19thlive. And if you're not already, please be sure to sign up for our free newsletter at 19thnews.org/subscribe, where you can find out about upcoming 19th News events. Now, let's introduce our panelists. Mack Beggs is an advocate for transgender student athletes across the country, including himself. He's currently pursuing a BA in Human Development and Social Change at Life University and hopes to become a gender therapist. Mack works with Equality Texas and the Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Education Network of Kansas on behalf of transgender youth. Sarah Rose Huckman is a sophomore at the University of New Hampshire. In high school, Huckman competed on the girls' varsity cross-country and Nordic skiing teams. She's a social media influencer and a transgender activist who works alongside legislative members in New Hampshire to pass bills in support of the LGBTQ+ community. Over to you, Kate.
Thanks, Amanda, and thank you, Mack and Sarah, for joining us. I'm so excited to have you both. What a great panel we have here to talk about trans people and sports for Pride. Both of these athletes are featured in a new documentary that's out on Hulu, Changing the Game, and you can also learn a lot more about their activism in that documentary. Amazing voices for trans athletes, and I'm excited to dive in with both of you. And Changing the Game dives into what it means to be a young person trying to compete in athletics and to be blocked as competing in the gender that you are, which is something that a lot of states are debating right now. But a lot has changed, I think, since that film was shot. And I wanted to just touch base with both of you. Can you talk just a little bit about where you are each in your lives and what has happened since the film was made? Maybe Sarah, do you want to start us out?
Yeah, of course. So I am actually in my going into my junior year of college at UNH. I'm super excited to be coming into there. But I've been doing a lot of activism work and just being myself, enjoying my time. I'm actually currently here at the camp that I work at, working with campers, and I'm super excited.
And Sarah, are you still skiing?
I am. I'm not competing, but I still ski on my free time, which is like super fun. I love doing it with my friends and stuff like that. Yeah.
Amazing. And Mack, what is going on with you?
I'm training, not necessarily having gotten any competition yet because I am training Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, and BJJ right now. And I love it. It's definitely a new experience. Definitely an easier transition than most, coming from having a wrestling background. And I retired from college wrestling about a couple months ago. I'm going to my senior year at college at Life University. And right now, just really being an activist and just kind of living Mack's life. Just kind of being my own little person, you know?
I'm really curious. The last year has been so intense for so many trans folks, whether you're involved in sports or not. But legislatively, the climate has been so harsh for trans kids. What is it been like for each of you to watch states try to? Can you start us off there?
Yeah. I think for me, it's been really devastating all of these bills that push back trans athletes and just trans people in general. I think one of the things that really hits home is seeing all these young kids being deferred from doing what they love, and seeing how I was supposed to be able to do what I loved. But I just like, I was able to, but now these kids potentially won't be able to do it themselves. And it's really sad.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna add on to that. It's really disheartening to see, and it's discrediting in a fact that, you know, people want to pay attention to the fact that the only reason why we're here right now is because people want to focus, and the media wants to focus on just transgender athletes winning, instead of the fact that we've always been here, we've always been competing. And it's kind of like they're trying to wash us off in a way with the legislation, passing all these bills at the same time, this whole wave of just discrimination and misunderstood information, and the media trying to portray us in a way that's just false.
As I mentioned, Sarah and Mack are featured in new Hulu documentary, Changing the Game. Let's watch a clip right now.
Wrestling found me. I love it. Oh God, where do I even begin? Oh shit. These are all my first place ones. This was Outstanding Wrestler Cowgirl Classic. And then this is the state with me being trans. And then I got this award. Yeah. I had to mark out my name because Julius Junior High is a bitch. I don't know why they had to do that. I am a male, so I should compete with the males.
17-year-old Mack Beggs, a junior at Euless Trinity who was born a girl and is now in the process of becoming a boy, wins the girls' state wrestling tournament Saturday. Mack wanted to wrestle against the boys. The UIL says he had to wrestle the girls, and that's not fair for anybody involved in this argument.
Current UIL rules state boys may not wrestle against girls and vice versa, and gender shall be determined based on a student's birth certificate. For Beggs, that means he's got no choice but to wrestle girls.
What are the conversations that you each have had with other trans kids who have seen Changing the Game?
I feel like there's a lot of sympathy when talking about the film, in the sense of the fact that of the film saying and portraying that there's a lot of love and acceptance. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of kids that have that type of safe space. And so a lot of the comments that I get just about the film is, well, where do I start? And how do I start? What can I do? And the best of what I can do is being able to use my voice and my platform in a positive way, and being able to provide resources for them to be safe and be able to transition the best way that they can.
I was going to say the same thing. I think a lot of the times I get questions asked about like, how do I start and where do I start, you know? And I think that's like one of the bigger things that we need, that I focus on, is like helping kids start off where they need to, and just help them find their own path.
One of the things that to me is most powerful in this film is that all of the parents that are featured really seem to support you all, right? All of your, Mac, your grandmother is your fiercest ally. Sarah, your parents are, they say that, trans is not a political issue for us, right? We are conservative, but this for us is, this is not about politics, and they support you unequivocally, it seems. I'm curious, was there a time when this was a learning curve for them? And do you have a message for other trans kids who are maybe wading through this with their parents about, how far did your parents have to learn things? Was that difficult?
Yeah. So from my knowledge of like what I've talked to my parents, they kind of like knew everything, just because I had a very accepting doctor when I first came out as trans. But I think it takes time for people to figure out and learn about what is going on in their lives, especially when someone is transitioning, because that is such a big change in people's lives. But I think I don't recall my parents saying there was any like pushback or anything that like they had to learn. Well, obviously they had to learn what being transgender was from our doctor and from like articles and stuff like that. But in time, they definitely came to conclude that this was something that was inevitable, it was happening, and they just had to love and accept me for who I was.
Yeah, definitely over like the past decade, to me, I feel like, at least in my area, to where I lived, the LGBT community was very not prominent. And so the idea of these social institutions and these concepts being brought forth, like to, just, when you're in school and you're just like, oh, do I like that girl? Oh, do I like that boy? Like just the simple thought of like the concept of like being able to identify what you identify as and like what you like. And, when you have to bring these conversations home, that's really hard. And I think with the fact that how me and Sarah's parents and my grandparents reacted and our families just wanted to find out information. And then there was not the amount of resources that there are now, because we are now seeing that we need to have these resources available. That way we can have the best care and the best possible, reach out to these kids in these situations, and not just kids, but to adults too. Adults who felt like that they couldn't come out when they were, when it was like 50, 60 years ago. It's being more acceptable now to live in your truth. And, I feel like parents that are caring just want to have those resources available for them so they have a better understanding.
I have to say, when I watch Changing the Game, and I see the experiences that you all went through, it does seem like a very scary reality to be as out as you each have been and to compete. I'm thinking of, to me, one of the most difficult moments of the film is watching you, Mack, read through comments that adults have made about you on social media. And I know that's a reality for a lot of trans kids who have to be called to speak out against these bills. I'm curious, one, like, does that harassment continue for you? And what has that been like for you over the course of a really long time?
I know that there are probably more comments on me in a sense, just because of everything. But I'm the type of person to just be like, I'm gonna block you. I'm going to delete you. You have no relevance in my life. I don't know who you are. There's no need for me to get involved with who you are or what is your agenda or your intention of calling out a 22-year-old in college just trying to live their best life and just be happy. So I always tell people this. I mean, I feel very sorry that you feel that way. I mean, that's all I could say. I'm not going to expense my energy on you because you disagree with my lifestyle and who I am as a person. And I mean, just go on your merry way because you're not going to get a rise out of me, and it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I was gonna, along those lines, I think I've definitely just I've ignored it. I don't get as much hate anymore. Like I did, there was like a period of time where it went from like a lot of hate to no hate, and then like kind of in the middle. I'm kind of in the middle right now. But I just really ignore it and I don't pay attention to it. I don't focus on it. I set all my comments to be filtered through me before they go out into the world. And all my messages are on like requests and stuff like that. So I don't spend the energy and the time on the negativity just because it's like, I want to be living a positive life and having good karma around me. And I just want to be amazing and have so much fun and positivity in my life, and no negative vibes. There we go. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, because you are amazing, Sarah.
You were too,
I mean,
Max. Stop.
I mean, there is a moment though where like you're watching this and you have to wonder like, did sports bring you more joy than pain, right? Like, as it and
It definitely is a correlation, like with just all the hate and everything. I feel like sports just made it easier to hone in on a task that was making it everything else irrelevant, and it didn't matter. And I feel like it was a very safe place for me to be in a space to where I could like release that type of energy in a very constructive way.
Yeah, being able to focus my energy on just not the negativity and the sports and my family and my friends really helped me like kind of ignore and block out that type of hate, because I know if I did read into the hate, I would be in a very bad place. And I'm just glad that I was able to focus on such positive light in my world, especially with my friends and my family.
why do you think it matters that trans people get to play sports in their true genders?
Because we're valid.
Yeah.
We're valid.
We're
We're
human.
human. We're human. Yeah,
We're
there you
human
go.
beings. That's what I always say. I always say is that we're all human beings, and we, at the end of the day, we just want to do the sport that we love, and we want to be able to do the things that we love. And when I see all these anti-trans bills and LGBTQ bills, it just tears me down, because I know what it feels like to be attacked, and I never want that feeling to be put onto anybody else.
Sarah, there's a moment in the film that where you talk about maybe holding yourself back, right? Like if you win, is that going to be a problem? And one of the most, it seems like a genesis for a lot of the anti-trans bills is actually Andrea and Terry, who are also in the film, and a lot of the targeting toward them and trans women winning in their sports is like a great fear. Do you still have that fear for trans women who succeed, and how do you grapple with that?
Yeah. I think I definitely do. I do see a lot of other, well, with the trans athletes that I know now in high school, I see them pulling back. And I always tell them, like, don't be afraid to just give it your all. But I think for me and other trans women who are in sports, it's that small little voice in our back of our head constantly like nagging at us, saying like, you can't push that hard, or you can't win this race because you're going to have eyes on you. You're going to have all these attackers on you because you're doing better than cisgendered women, when in reality, we shouldn't be thinking like that, but we do anyways, because we have that initial target on our back. And so I don't know, I fear for some of my fellow trans women in sports, because I know that there are people out there who will target them for being better at their sport. But I do see our society becoming a little bit more lenient, I guess. Hopefully a little bit more lenient.
I feel like there's a higher calling now for the trans community. I have seen nothing but love and support behind this whole facade and false allegations, and just the bills going around. And people are finally waking up to the fact that we're not monsters. We are not these human beings coming to take over the planet. Like, we're just regular people, and like stuck in bodies that we weren't meant to be born in. And that's a very hard concept and idea for somebody to wrap around their head. And and just from just a neutral standpoint, I can completely understand parents' fear of like their children transitioning. I completely understand. I mean, me and my mom had a conversation just about like her not being able to understand, but she knew that something was going on. And I feel like it's important that these conversations are being talked about, because if they aren't talked about, then we can't work through them.
Can you talk a little bit about, you said you can understand why parents might be afraid. What do you mean? Like,
like just for the a child's safety. Like for instance, I was fortunate enough to be in a situation where I had a inclusive school and I had inclusive friends and I had a good support system. Some kids don't have that to fall back on, and their safety can be compromised with just for them coming out and living their truth, and that's scary. And I know that if it was my child, I would be scared. I mean, I don't want my child to not be something they're not. I am totally supportive of them 100%. But do I fear for them? Yes, I do. I am scared for them that they won't walk through the door at the end of their school day, at the end of the day, or whenever. Like that's kind of a scary concept to me.
Yeah, I think there's a divide between cisgendered parents and parents who will become people who will become parents who happen to be trans. And I think that divide will be knowing what it's like and not knowing what it's like to walk through doors and have all the eyes on you because you are different, And I think that's going to be something that we're I don't know. It's going to be something that I'm going to have to work through myself with my own kids if I ever choose to have kids, is being okay with them walking through the doors, knowing that they may be gay, they may be trans, or anything else in between. And I think every parent has that scared sense, because they don't want their baby to be hurt. They don't want their child to experience hate. Yet there's so much hate in the world, but the only thing we can do is protect them from the hate and surround them with love and positivity.
Yeah, I'm just gonna piggyback on just like I feel like this is really important to talk about, just in the sense that when we're dealing with like trans kids and I found out that my mom told me in a conversation that when I was in junior high, apparently there is a law in junior high in athletics that if you were to wear the opposite undergarments of the opposite gender, which for instance, if I were to wear boxer briefs in the girls' locker room, if I was caught, I could have been banned from athletics. And so that made some tension between me and my mom in a conversation when we went to go get boxers at Walmart. She couldn't tell me completely the whole truth because I wouldn't have been able to understand. I would have been like, no, you're just telling me this because you don't want me to wear boxer briefs. You don't want me to be a guy. And it broke her heart. I was like, Mom, why didn't you ever tell me that? And she was like, well, now I can tell you because you're ready. And I'm like, that's insane. Like, that's crazy how like you're shielding me from all this hate. And like, even though I showed you a side of me that I was negative towards you because of that situation, you still love me unconditionally and you were just only trying to protect me. Like, and that's
It's such a hard reality.
Yeah. Yeah. When we talked about that, I was like, whoa. First of all, I didn't even know that. How did you know that? She was like, because I love you and I care about you. And I know you want to do athletics and you can't do it as a gender that you identify as. So, and I know you're going to continue to do athletics. So I want to be able to protect you the best way I can. And the people, especially the coach, our director, head coach at the time, Coach Beasley, she worked with my mom and she was like, I had no idea about this either. Like there was rules that even the head coaches had no idea about. It was insane.
I'm curious, like, as you navigate this, one of the things that we don't see very closely, we see some of it, is how do cis athletes respond to you? How have they responded to you? We see a lot of parents, but like, what is it like for cis kids? Like, is this an issue for them, really?
I can go. I know in high school for me, there was not a lot of people with questions. It was kind of, I guess, like murmuring, like under the breaths and like within small groups of conversation. But it was never vile like language, or it never was like putting me down because I was different or because I was trans. It was just underlying questions that they didn't have the guts to ask me. You know what I mean? I think that's what I saw with a lot of my cisgendered athletes, that like my teammates, they just, they didn't feel comfortable talking to me about it. So they would talk amongst each other. And we know that talking behind people's backs or spreading rumors doesn't really help the situation anymore. So it just, it didn't create a toxic competition space. It just was very, it left some gaps, you know, like if they were to ask me these questions, I would have been able to answer them like truthfully and wholly, but we're all scared in high school. I remember being scared myself. I remember my friends being scared, and taking that step and taking that action to like ask questions, especially if it seems to be personal, it's definitely hard for some. But that's why I always whenever I enter a new space of like work or athletics or like a new group of friends, I'm always like, I'm an open book. Like, this is who I am. Like, you can ask me any questions, just make sure they're appropriate, and like I'll have no problem with answering them.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same way, and I agree with Sarah. I was in the same situation as she was, and just, you know, with people talk, you could feel the energy in the room when you walk in, and you're like, you just feel eyes just coming at you. And it's just kind of like, oh, well, what's going on, guys? And you know, it's a very hard, like it's very hard to deal with, and I mean, I feel like it's important for the trans community to make sure and to be reminded that not everybody knows what's up and everybody can be an ally. But I think it's very important to, if somebody has a question that they don't know the answer to, and you are somebody that they can go to in order to give them valid information and information that could be helpful for not just them, but whoever they talk to. I think it's important to ask those types of questions as long as they're appropriate.
Yeah. I mean, to that too, I'm curious how people have responded to the film who are not trans. Like, what is the feedback that you've gotten to this point? Now that, I mean, a lot of us haven't seen, I have this conversation so often. People are like, well, what do trans kids say? What are they telling you? And I'm like, you can go see, like, right? Like, you can go ask actual trans kids who are in sports, or, you know, watch this movie. And so what has the response been like? You're giving me a heart, Max. It's been joyous.
Yeah, it's just been amazing. I mean, way before the film came out on Hulu, we were showing at film festivals, and it was just like a concept. Just people were just so ecstatic about it. Like, they were just like, dude, when can we see this? Like, is this going to be showing anywhere? Like, I can't travel to this state when we were showing at film festivals. Like, I want to see this film. Like, it just looks so heartwarming, and there's not enough positive and concise information on transgender individuals. And like changing the game, the film does a beautiful way of portraying us and us just living our truth.
Yeah, I think back to the film festival circuit and being on tour and everything with this. I remember the one crowd that I remember the most is like, that's so vivid in my mind. I think, Mack, you might agree, Mountain Film and Telluride. And that was one of the most loving and positive and accepting crowd that I've ever seen in my life. It was amazing to see that 300 plus people in that theater watching our film, and then, well, watching us discuss the film. And then after leaving, it was insane. Like, all these people came up to us and were like, oh my God, can we get like a picture? Like, can we get your socials and stuff like that? And it was just like a whole nother level of love and acceptance, because they had seen the film, they saw us talk, and they were just so ecstatic and filled with joy and love, because they knew that this was a stepping stone, a milestone for the trans community. And it was just, I don't know, it was so amazing seeing that. But like right now, all my friends who have seen the documentary who are cis, they all are like, that was so well put together. They're like, wait, did I just watch like something that I would see just on like regular TV, like National Geographic or something? They're like, it was so good. And I'm like, thank you.
Yeah, it was just so well put together, and I'm so thankful that we could be a part of it. It was a very transcending experience in the sense of being able to find another part of myself that I never thought I could find.
Now that we've seen this, I'm curious, what are your dreams for trans people in sports? Not just trans kids, all trans people.
To be loved, and I want them to love themselves, know that they're amazing and that their self-worth is so much, and they can go out into the world and do whatever they want to do because they're awesome and amazing and brilliant and beautiful, regardless of what people say. Get out there, go play the sports that you want to play, because you are you, we're all human beings, and don't let anybody else tell you any different.
Yeah, just the same thing. To be you and be true. Don't let anybody dim your light, because watch out, because Uncle Mack's coming if they are.
One thing that the film doesn't address, but seems like it will be increasingly an issue, is the presence of non-binary athletes, and where non-binary folks are going to fit into this in schools. Is that something each of you have been asked about, talked about, something that you want to weigh in on?
Yeah, I've had several conversations with some universities that have seen the film, and it definitely makes a very inclusive environment, to the fact that when we talk about just transgender individuals living in their truth, it's not only just, especially these anti-trans bills, it's not just targeting the trans community. Women are being attacked, non-binary people are being attacked, the whole LGBT, anybody that's not gender conforming are being attacked. It's not just the trans community. And I think it's very important that we also bring that up, because it's going to affect a lot more people than just the trans community. And it's heartwarming to me to know that with these social institutions slowly being stripped, especially within the fact that the US is so fixed on the fact that this is what a male should be, this is what a female should be, and that's not okay, because gender and sexuality is a spectrum.
Yeah, I've had a discussion with a couple of people who wanted to talk about what it means to be different and what it means to be non-binary or trans in our athletic sphere. And the way I put it was just let them compete on the team that they need to compete on, because it's not a want, it's a need. It's a need within ourselves, it's a need within our safety of who we are. And that was just one thing that I really touched hard upon, was that we need this to survive. I needed to be able to compete on the women's sports team, because that's who I am. I am a woman, regardless of my sexual orientation or gender. And I think that's just one thing that I really just hit home.
Mack, you raised something that seems really critical here, which is, that it's not just about trans people. There's a policing of gender, policing of gender nonconformity. There also seems to be an overlap of policing of women of color, right? If we look at Castor Semenya, and we look at the ways in which Simone Biles and controversies around athletes have been raised over and over again, it seems particularly to be the genesis of a lot of this policing comes policing women of color in athletics.
Yeah. For instance, my girlfriend has had conversations with people about them, like being like, oh, well, they should not be in sports. Trans females should not be in sports. They are not real women, and they are just only hurting women's sports. When, okay, well, let's look at, for instance, the WNBA, when they didn't even get the amount of, I'm gonna just say riches to bathe in like the male team did. And they were like, the weight rack, are you kidding me with what weights they had? Are you serious? They were going to a championship like game and going to compete in the championships. And you're telling me that's what they got? That's what they got when they went? That's discrediting. And so to say that you want to protect women's sports, but only attack this certain situation, that's not okay. That's not okay with me. You're not protecting women's sports. You're only trying to validate the fact that you're not okay with the idea of trans females competing on a female team because they are females.
Yeah, that pretty much, that's what I was going to touch upon, the WNBA and how they got like that. They only got that small little weight rack. And I think about how we look at women in sports and how we look at people of color in sports. And I feel like there just shouldn't be that divide. We are all human beings at the end of the day, and that we all just want to do sports, you know what I mean? And it drives me crazy when I see all these people being like, Black people have an advantage, Asian people are smarter, or women can't do what men can do. It's just like, we're all human beings. We all exist in the same athletic sphere of wanting to do what we want to do because we enjoy our sport. So it's just, I don't know, sometimes I just get really aggravated.
Everybody is capable of doing anything as long as you train your body in order to do that. For instance, I can't ski.
I can't wrestle. I can't wrestle.
Like,
if I went into a wrestling ring, I would be taken out. I can't, there's things that I can't do, and there's things that other people can do. And everybody has a different skill set, and I guess we overlook that sometimes, that everybody is a little bit more well-versed in some things, it's just we live our lives.
We just build different.
Well, this is something I really want to ask you about, which is what is your core value in sports, or what is a core value of sports? Is it about fairness? Is it about teamwork? Is it about participation? Is it about exercise? Why do we do sports, or why do you do sports? And for people who value fairness, what is a message that you have for them?
I think a core value for myself is that I am a human being. I am myself. I do the things that I love because I love them. And I just keep in the back of my mind that I can't let other people tell me anything different, because they're not me. They don't know what I like. They don't know what I'm capable of. And I think we need to let other trans athletes know, who are trying to get out there into the world and be themselves. I think they need to know that they are valid and they are loved, and that they should just be themselves and not let other people stomp all over them, even when it seems like that's the only thing that's happening, because you can pick yourself up from the bottom whenever, and you can just be amazing and do the things that you love.
I feel like I was like, it's very weird for me to talk about like what for your question, in a sense that I was raised on very traditional values of what it like when it comes to sports. So like, not necessarily was it like a team thing for me, because it was definitely individual. So like the three things that I always hone in on when it comes to sports is hard work, discipline, and commitment. And I feel like that goes a long way with not just in sports, but with your work and your everyday activities, anything that's like an outside factor that you're doing in life. I feel like if you work hard and you're committed and you're disciplined in doing that type of task, you will go so far in life.
Mack, Sarah, I want to thank you both so much. It's been a pleasure talking with you both. I'm really appreciative of both of you taking the time to be with us today and sharing your stories with us.
Yeah, and
Thank you so much
for letting us be on here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It means a lot. I'm super glad that I was able to do this.
Thank you, Mack, Sarah, and Kate for that inspiring conversation, and to all of you for tuning in. We hope you'll join us in August for our second annual The 19th Represents Summit, where we'll spend a week exploring what it takes to achieve racial and gender equity in American culture, media, sports, and civic life. If you want to be among the first to hear details about the summit and all future events, sign up now for free at 19thnews.org/subscribe. And finally, thanks to the more than 10,000 members supporting our nonprofit newsroom. It's your contributions that make conversations like today's possible. If you're not a member yet, you can show your support today by donating at 19thnews.org/membership. We look forward to welcoming you to the 19th family, and we'll see you in August.